ZiKZ 605R, an honest infield review. Hello there everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of SnowRunner here at OpenFed Gaming. You're listening to the OpenFed. Today we are taking a look back at the ZiKZ 605R. Now you can acquire him in Amour on the map of Cosmodrome, and I was pretty excited when I got him. And he's an awesome truck, but he kind of got left behind when I started driving some of the other ones. So we're taking a look back. We're taking a look back and see how he measures up against some of the other trucks, and is he worth using a little bit more often? This is what we want to know. Now, I don't do the normal reviews of where I pull weights or go up steep hills and compare the speed and stuff like that. There's lots of reviews like that out there, and there's certainly a lot of value to be had out of those. However, I do the in-field review where I just take the truck out and I see what it can do, because there is nothing worse than having the wrong truck for the wrong job. So if you have the right truck and you know what it can do, then you can better understand of what jobs you can use them for. So without any further delay, let's get into the ZiKZ 605R review. Here we are in the garage, and let's build our ZiKZ 605R. Money should no longer be an issue, so let's get the best engine that he's got. And let's do the same thing with the gearbox. Now the suspension is stock. And the tires that we installed are Jack of all trades 54 inch. They're a little bit smaller, but I prefer them. Now we take the best winch that they've got and a front-facing snorkel. Now the frame add-ons are a little bit sparse. There's not as many as some of the trucks have got. We got the high saddle and the trunk repair supplies, which gives you an extra 600 repair parts and 200 liters of fuel. And then the spare wheel option gives you 2 spare wheels and another 40 liters of fuel. Then as far as the rest is concerned, I would definitely put on a heavy-duty bumper to protect the front end and just kind of play around with the rest. Now the ZiKZ's got a lot of pros and a couple of cons. So let's talk about the cons first. The biggest con and the biggest drawback that I found with the ZiKZ 605R is the saddle. Now I got a high saddle on here, and I got a few of my trucks, the ones in my fleet that I use on a regular basis outside here, and the Kenworth is on the far left, and then comes the Slider Elephant, then the Plaid 450, and then the Avonhorn A15. And if you look, the saddles go from highest to lowest, and the high saddle on the Kenworth and Slider are way up there, and the ones in the Plaid and the Avonhorn are still quite a bit higher as well. Meaning that when you put anything in a fifth wheel behind you to stabilize the bars on that trailer, or Oil Salvage Rig Semi-Trailer, are going to be scraping on the ground because the high saddle is too low. That is my biggest con of this truck. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you some examples. Let's go. The cons of the ZiKZ 605R. The main issue that I have with the ZiKZ is that the high saddle is a little bit too low for me. Or the saddle might be high enough, but the truck's got a really low profile, bringing the front end of the trailer that you're pulling down so low that your stabilizer bars become a problem. Now we're pulling an Oil Rig Salvage Semi-Trailer here out of the bottom of the quarry in Lake Riviere. Now we got to try and deliver to the docks in harbor. A long ways to go and a pretty treacherous journey. Now we're lucky that we had one lonely little tree here on the side, and we were able to hook up to it with the winch and pull ourselves out of it. Now the second issue that I have with the ZiKZ is it's got no chains, and as you can see here, we're trying to go up a little bit of an incline, and it's just not going to work. Now most of the time chains are not an issue. However, if you're gonna go on the straight ice road, it's not gonna work. So go around it, stay on the snow, and if you have a problem with a little bit of an incline, just drive on the side of the road. You'll get enough traction. That's usually a little bit better when you're driving on the side like that. Now in this very next example, as you can see, we are just stuck behind a little bit of a hill that's covered in snow, and it's just enough to catch the stabilizer legs and thus stopping us again. So we're gonna have to pull the winch back out again. Now I understand you got the winch so you can still do the job, but if you had any of the other trucks with the higher saddles, the stabilizer legs getting caught would not be an issue. Like here, we got to drive around the side of the hill, going up this rocky area, and there was about 3 or 4 or 5 spots that I got stuck in. Now, there is nothing really right here to winch on, so you pretty well have to rely on yourself or any rescue truck that might be around in the area. Anyhow, we got it going. We finally broke it loose, but by the time we got to the very top and we got out of this part of the job, I tell you, it took us probably about 10 times longer than it should have. But we were trying to check out the capabilities of the ZiKZ, and we're going to keep on going. So here's one more spot where we got stuck a little bit again right there at the top. It's just amazing. Those stabilizer legs, they're a real problem. Now in this example here, we're climbing up the hill in harbor, just below the main highway, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and luckily enough, once again, one tiny little tree off by itself on the side, and we were lucky enough to be able to reach it with the winch and able to pull ourselves out of there. As you can see, we had to take a couple of shots at it, but we got that trailer high centered again. So as you can see, I keep trying to preach about using the right truck for the right job, and this obviously was not the right job for the ZiKZ. I used it because I wanted to see what the extent of the capabilities were, but by having done that, I now know what I think are the 2 biggest cons this truck has, and that is the high saddle is just a little bit too low for me, and the lack of chains, which is not really an issue. Now we're still trying to get through here, and sooner or later we're going to get to the top. Anyhow, those were the cons. On to the pros. So here we are with the pros of the ZiKZ 605R. Now the ZiKZ can have a boxed bed like I've got now, or a flat deck, whichever you like, and it can hold 2 cargo slots in the back, just like the Plaid and the Avonhorn. Now this truck, I'm sure, was made just to drive through the muck, the mud, and the deep snow, just cross country, just like that. I don't think it was really made for that 5th wheel, but that was the cons. We're talking about the pros. Now with the nice short frame it's got, it takes turns real easy. You got lots of room to move around with it. It can go through these big cracks in the rocks like this one here much easier because it's got the twin steer in the front. And as you know, if you only have the single steer, the single axle, you fall in there, you might not be able to pull back out. So that helps out. And the ZiKZ likes to swim. He doesn't seem to mind deep water for some reason. He just kind of chugs through it, even though he goes really deep. I almost lost him in the water here, but he just pulls right through. So a really good pro for this truck, you know. And as he's climbing up out of the water here, I wondered what kind of a climber he is, because I've tried him before and he didn't climb all that great, but you know, just normal. So if you're still wondering, like I was, we got a little bit of climbing to do over here. And of course, we don't need to subject him to any more problems than is necessary, so we just kind of sneak up the back here. And he doesn't seem to have an issue. Just like that. He can climb himself out of just about anywhere. And as far as power is concerned, here we are back in Lake Riviere with that big Oil Rig Salvage Semi-Trailer. Now, I had a little bit of trouble with this coming through here. Didn't quite get it lined up exactly where it should have been. It's a little bit off. I was a little worried. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I had enough trouble already getting this far. And I don't know if any of the other trucks would have done any better here. But I tell you, I'm glad I had the ZiKZ hooked up to this rig. Because as we came across here, the rear wheels slid off and almost pulled us back in. But I managed to save it just in time. So as far as power is concerned, the ZiKZ's got lots. Whenever you're driving on any kind of flat area, that is, so that the stabilizer bars aren't an issue, then nothing else is either. Because the ZiKZ just powers through wherever you throw at it, as you can well see here. Even without chains, the snow or the ice isn't a problem. Only ice roads are an issue. The only one. As you can see here, over the ice, not a problem. He just chugs along. So, you know, it makes you wonder, is the ZiKZ worth another look? Well, maybe the ZiKZ was never worth looking away from. It's just you got to make sure you use them for the right job. He's very good at a lot of things, and just a couple of things he's not good at. So does that mean you should not have him in your fleet? Well, no, absolutely not. I think he'd be a great addition, and I think we're going to be using him for more jobs in the upcoming days. And we're going to try and make sure that we're going to use him for the right jobs. And that way, we'll have a 100% success rate. Absolutely awesome truck. As you can see, he has no problems pulling this big rig across the ice. Anyhow, I enjoyed making the video, and I hope you got some tips and tricks out of it. Until the next time, you've been looking at the pros and cons of the ZiKZ 605R with me, the Oil Rig.